Welcome back to the special audience edition of Hannity. Now, Senators Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, they took a lot of heat from politicians on both sides of the aisle because they knew how much of a train wreck Obamacare would ultimately be. They had the moral courage to try and do something about it. Well, after President Obama finally admitted that he fumbled on the rollout, both Cruz and Lee were vindicated. Simply put, they were right. Now let's turn back to our studio audience. All right.
That's wrong. I'm laughing.
The president basically did everything that they were asking to do before the government shutdown, right?
Well, I think that this today is an opportunity for voters to look forward and see what the actual outcome is. At the Fox Business Network, we look at the economic impact of this entire situation and how much of a challenge it's been. Right. And obviously there's a huge political impact. And how will people be voting with their pocketbooks? I think that's the most interesting thing to come out today, because we do know the president has admitted that there is a political consequence.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
This was the beginning of the Obamacare downward death spiral. Even Democrats are jumping ship. They want no part of it. They've seen the realities of Obamacare and what it's doing to real-life Americans, and the 2014 elections are a little too close for comfort.
Yeah, Allison, what do you and Penny, you guys both would.
What's concern for America? You know, in North Carolina, it's been horrible for them. We've seen women's premiums increase 3 times. Men have gone up 4 times the regular cost. And because of that, Kay Hagan's numbers have dropped. She was ahead double digits between anyone that was up against her. Now she's down neck and neck with all of them. There is a price to be paid for this. There's a price to be paid for bad policy, and they continue to push it. And I think very quickly that, you know, you're going to see all the Democrats jumping ship that are up for re-election in 2014.
Well, I think that was the whole purpose. This is the cynical side of this, Allison, is because they only did it to protect Democrats come 2014. Absolutely. So this is just temporary to give them some space to get through the re-election campaign, but we're right back where we started from 1 year from now.
Yeah, well,
go ahead. Yeah, Allison, go ahead.
I think it's important to realize, too, just speaking on behalf of young people, that the administration has treated us like young imbeciles, not like young invincibles. It relies, it rests on our backs. It rests on our shoulders, this whole thing. And so I appreciate the grown-ups in the room playing games, but we are the ones subsidizing all of this.
No, and that's the point. And being younger than both me and Geraldo, no, in fairness, because you're going to have to bear that burden. Probably a good plan for you is, if you're healthy and have a good family history, is a catastrophic plan. Very inexpensive, high deductible. God forbid you have an accident, get cancer, young person has a heart attack, something like that, you'd be covered. What do you think?
We keep talking about the politics and the impact on 2014 and 2016 elections, and we're forgetting about the one base, the Latino vote, that everyone knows is so important for deciding to the White House. Well, there was a broken promise with millions of dollars invested in Spanish language television and radio, and we still don't have a working Spanish language website. There's about 10 million Latinos who are waiting out there eligible to sign up. They're being redirected to a phone number where people are not even fully bilingual to address their questions.
Been through, you know, that's
a big political
but you know,
myth.
Look at the labor participation rate since Obama took office. In the African American community, it's down 31%. It's the worst labor participation rate, I'm sorry, in 31 years. Same for women. Same with the Hispanic community. And these are the core constituencies that got Obama elected.
The community is noticing for the very first time in a year, Latinos have a rating that is under a 50 for President Obama. That has never happened.
All right, Scotty, I promise.
And this is why it's important that I want every Democrat, especially Harry Reid, to stand up there and say he lied, because this isn't the first time he's lied, and America keeps forgetting that. I want every Democrat and John McCain to stand up and say, you know what, my president lied, therefore they won't listen to him the next time when he comes up, and he'll remember this.
Tammy Bruce, go ahead.
Go ahead. The silver lining.
Here's not lied yet.
How do you everybody?
Hold on. Go ahead. What did you want to say? And then we'll get to Tammy. Go ahead.
My point is, name one politician that hasn't said something that's not true.
That is a lie.
It's politics. And you know what? But we're forgetting that.
Let's not have equivalents every 8 years of lies about wars.
But Sean, we're forgetting that with any new policy, we don't know how it's going to affect the public until it's implemented. That's why we have reform.
But the difference is they knew in 2010 that all these people were going to lose their policy.
Here's the silver lining to this. For the Latinas, for the women, for the young people, there is one message to this, and that is this is not what big government should be doing. 85% of Americans were happy with their health insurance. You can deal discreetly with the 15% that exist, but they did not. Listen to all of our arguments on the left or the right, liberal or conservative. This is a cluster, and it shows everyone of all ages that this is not what government can do, it's not what they're capable of doing, and this will be the result. It is the argument for fiscal conservatism, and this is something that we all have to make sure is the result of what's happened.
Isn't this
is a disaster.
How many do you think this is literally liberalism on trial?
Well, it's not what they meant, but ultimately, when it comes down to the result and to what the discussion is, it is. It absolutely
John started this segment by suggesting that Mike Lee and especially Ted Cruz were prophets.
They were right.
Tea Party.
Look, I believe that Ted Cruz has disqualified himself for ever being president of the United States, and I also think he has been profoundly damaged by what he did. Just consider this. What if Senator Ted Cruz, instead of standing up for 24 hours and attracting all this attention and shutting down the government of the United States, had kept his powder dry until ObamaCare launched, and then criticized the website and criticized.
He lit the match.
Waited, he would not have cost the taxpayers of the United States $24 billion, $70 a head.
He lit the match. It was a spark that engaged the entire country. You're wrong.
This match has nothing to do with
I'll take Ted Cruz over Barack Obama as president, who you voted for twice any day.
Ted Cruz never lied. Timing is everything in life.
When we come back, more with our studio audience. Don't go anywhere. And President Obama, he can only blame himself for the mess that he's in now. Coming up next, we'll react to the Anointed One's credibility crisis as Hannity continues. It was a big week of bad news for Obamacare, but what lies ahead on the fight to kill this reckless law? We bring back our studio audience. Noah, go ahead. You were saying?
That last segment is an example of what we're going to see next year. We're going to relitigate the health care debate, and the Republicans are going to take the lead on it because there's going to be a hunger for what is your idea, right? You showed the generic congressional ballot, radical shift over the course of a month. But it's not a zero-sum game. The GOP has not increased in popularity, and they run a real risk of getting out a little too far ahead of this thing and suffering as a result.
If you look at the numbers after the government shutdown, they've gone up dramatically in terms of the generic ballot. They were 9 points at least in the hole. Now they're 3 points ahead. So a 12-point swing, right?
But not in popularity.
I just want to challenge this notion that the government can't do big things. It can. It has. It provides excellent care, by and large, for veterans. It's provided Medicare. The problem, where's all this nostalgia about our wonderful insurance systems? Anybody remember, as Tamara mentioned, being kicked off for pre-existing conditions? Obamacare enabled people, young people, to stay on their parents' plan until they were 26.
Where's the nostalgia,
So
Penny?
I don't see why. I don't
pretend that people aren't being kicked off right now. Whitney Johnson from Texas sent me a letter this week. She has MS. She's a 26-year-old mom. She was paying premiums of $350 a month and loved her insurance. Said she thanked God for insurance. She was kicked off because plan didn't fit what the president thought she should have, although she loved it, and now it's $1,000 a month.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting stories from women all over, and men too, of what this looks like. It's unfortunate. It's more than unfortunate. It's sad, but these stories are so
You're
real.
a person. You work for the Heritage Foundation. You raised. All right. You had. Oh, right.
Concerned Women for America, Geraldo.
You had an example. 20 years you're not in the group, and then you get cancer, and now you expect to reap the benefits of these other people who've been paying for 20 years. What would you do with someone who has not been in a group for 20 years and develops cancer? What would you do? What would you do?
In the states before Obamacare, they're still going to exist.
So what would you do?
Well, let Eileen answer. Eileen is with the Heritage Foundation. Let her respond. Go ahead.
That's what this does. It makes you
What?
There are ways that Congress could create a pathway to make people who never paid in and got sick. There are pathways to make it so they can get insurance, but it should cost more because they never paid in for 20 years. They didn't pay for health insurance.
Here's the issue: the poor people were getting care. Just go to your local ER. They were there. The issue is they have kicked all of us.
Go ahead.
The poor people were getting care. You could just go to your ER. They were completely full. What this has done is kicked us, people who are paying into the system, who are being responsible. We're the ones being punished.
Guy Benson. Guy, go ahead.
This discussion that we're having, which is obviously rather spirited, spirited, brings us back to the fundamental issue with the case that was made for the law that was passed. We were told, this was the fundamental deception, we were told that there would be no losers under Obamacare. Everyone would win. Things would be better for everyone. We're now realizing that's not true, and people who didn't pay attention to every, twist and turn of this debate on the political stage, now it's hitting home. So if you're going to eventually replace Obamacare with something, which I hope we come to that, you have to sell it being honest so people have realistic expectations.
I agree.
Big problem.
All right, we got a break. I'll get to you, David. I promise. Ainsley, when we get back, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. Closing thoughts from our studio audience right after the break. Don't forget, you can correspond at Sean Hannity on Twitter if you want to write us.